إن شاء الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. What was the last thing that we discussed last time? No, Ahzab was way back. Way back. What? Way after Badr. We discussed last time actually the battle of Mu'tah. Remember? And the role of Khalid bin Walid alayhi radwanullah, and how he earned the title of the sword of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that battle when the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam praised him. Now remember, we discussed a few meetings back the great treaty of Al-Hudaybiyah. When did the Hudaybiyah treaty happen? Anybody remembers the date? Which year? No, before 9. The 6th. It was actually in Dhul Qa'dah of the 6th year after the migration. And today we're talking about an event that happened in Ramadan of the 8th year. So we're talking about a little less than 2 years later. And in the Hudaybiyah treaty, if you remember, there was some of the articles in there is that there was an of course the treaty was negotiated by Suhail ibn Amr on behalf of Quraysh and the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. And among the articles in the treaty is that the neighboring tribes have the choice of choosing one side or the other. And whoever chooses one side, then he will be basically bound by whatever that side agrees on. And whatever happens to one happens to everybody. In other words, everybody becomes part of that treaty. And there were two tribes that were in that area at that time that used to be almost like continuous enemies. And those were the tribe of Bakr and the tribe of Khuza'ah. And the tribe of Bakr chose to take the side of Quraysh. And the tribe of Khuza'ah chose to take the side of the Muslims, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And as such, both tribes were bound by the treaty. And an attack on any of the other side will be an attack on the whole, basically, and nullifies the treaty. Now, Khuza'ah and Bakr, the tribe of Khuza'ah and Bakr, had a long history of animosity among the two. And most of the time, it was Khuza'ah who would beat the other one, so to speak. So whenever there would be a fight, then Khuza'ah will have the upper hand. So here, Bakr, the tribe of Bakr, basically, they thought that we can use the opportunity, since there's no fighting, and we can stab Khuza'ah in the back. Basically, breaching the treaty. So the leader of Bakr, his name is Nawfal ibn Muawiyah, he spoke to some of the leaders of Quraysh. He said, would you help me basically kill some people from Khuza'ah? We want to attack Khuza'ah. Would you help me with that? Of course, most of the people of Quraysh, they said, no, we cannot, because we have an agreement with Muhammad. But still, few leaders from Quraysh agreed basically to help him with that. One of them was Ikrim ibn Abi Jahl, of course, who became a Sahabi later on. Another one was Safwan ibn Umayyah. And the third one was Suhail ibn Amr himself. Who was Suhail ibn Amr? I just mentioned his name a minute ago. Who was he? Yes, he was the one that negotiated the Hudaybiyah treaty on behalf of Quraysh. And here he's taking basically side with Bakr, with the tribe of Bakr, against Khuza'ah, nullifying the treaty. So what happened? They gave in and they decided basically to give him support. So here then this group of Bakr, they went to where some people from Khuza'ah were camping, and it was in a place called Al-Watir, on the outskirts of the Haram, of the Haram al-Makki, Mecca. And there were some of them were Muslims, some of them were not Muslims. Some of Khuza'ah became Muslim, some of it was not a Muslim. So they came, in the middle of the night, basically, they attacked them and they managed to kill 3 people among them. Then these people of Khuza'ah, the people of Khuza'ah, the remaining one, ran toward the Haram, because the Haram is a sacred place, no fighting happened in the Haram. Then Bakr, the tribe of Bakr, and the supporters from Quraysh followed them, basically to attack them even in the Haram. And then the remaining people from Bakr themselves, they told their leader, Nawfal ibn Muawiyah, they said, Al-Haram, what are you going to do with this Haram? We cannot fight with them. Then Nawfal told his own people that, well, you steal in the Haram. Now suddenly you're taking it as a sacred place. We're not going to stop. So they went and they kept basically on attacking them. Then these group of Khuza'a ran toward the house of one of the leaders. His name is Budayl ibn Warqa. Budayl ibn Warqa was one of the leaders of Khuza'a, and he had a house in Mecca. So they went there seeking basically refuge next to the house of the leader, but of course he could not do anything, and the fighting intensified in there until about 20 of them were killed on the doorsteps of Budayl ibn Warqa. And that continued until about Fajr time, when the light started coming out. Then the people of Bakr and their supporter from Quraysh ran away. But by then, the faces were already recognized. So the people knew actually who did that. Then the people of Khuza'a sent their poet, his name is Amr ibn Salim, to the Prophet ﷺ to tell him of what happened. We were protected under that treaty. How could that happen to us? So this Amr ibn Salim went to the Prophet ﷺ, and he was a poet, and he told him of what happened using poetry. Then the Prophet ﷺ's face changed. How could that happen? We have a treaty, we have an agreement. And then the Prophet ﷺ told him, Nusirta ya Amr ibn Salim, that, O Amr ibn Salim, you will be given victory for what happened to you. And he asked him to go back without telling anyone that he came to see the Prophet ﷺ. Meanwhile, of course, Quraysh, met to decide what was to happen. Because, it was a big problem. Some of our own participated in that, fight. And now everybody's going to suffer as a result of that. Then they met in a place in Dar al-Nadwa. And one of them, his name is Abdullah ibn Sa'd ibn Abi Sarh. Abdullah ibn Sa'd ibn Abi Sarh used to be one of the writers of the Revelation for the Prophet ﷺ. And then he became a murtad. He apostatized. So he said to the leaders of Quraysh that, I know Muhammad, he's going to ask for one of three things. He's going to call you for choosing one of three things. Of course, he didn't know the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, because that's not what the Prophet actually called for. He said he's going to ask you to pay the diya, the ransom of those that were killed in the process, in the big fight. Or he's going to ask you to reject Bakr, the tribe of Bakr, for what they did. Or he's going to call you for war. Of course, the third one is what the Prophet ﷺ was after. So they could not decide what was to happen. So what they decided to do, that we will send Abu Sufyan, who was by then the leader of Mecca, that Abu Sufyan would go and ask Muhammad ﷺ, before Muhammad does anything, or before Muhammad even knew about what happened, we will ask Muhammad to extend the treaty, to sign the treaty again, and to extend it. This way he could not breach it, because he would have already actually signed the treaty. But of course, by then it was too late. And at that time, then Budayl ibn Warqa and then some other people from Khuza'a arrived to Medina again to tell the Prophet ﷺ again of what happened. Then the Prophet ﷺ told them, I heard of what happened. Leave back from different places, do not leave from the same place, and do not tell anyone that you came and visited me about that. So they left from different places. On the way out, then who comes to Medina? Who's coming to Medina? Abu Sufyan, of course. And he asked him, what did you come to Medina for? What are you here for? Nothing, we're just visiting, business trip and whatnot. And Abu Sufyan, of course, he had doubts that they visited with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Abu Sufyan comes to Medina and he goes straight to the house of his daughter, Habiba. Who was Habiba radiallahu anha? The wife of the Prophet ﷺ. See, Habiba migrated to Habasha, to Abyssinia, in the early years. And what happened, her husband basically apostatized, he turned into Christian and he died. And she was a great honorable woman and she had nobody basically. Her own father was one of the bitterest enemies of the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ, to honor her, he married her. He married Habiba alayha radwanillah. So she was the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, and by then she had not seen her father for many years. So here comes her father, Abu Sufyan, and he goes into her room to sit on the bed of the Prophet ﷺ. Then before he did that, she rolls the bed over. And he tells her, why did you do that? So she didn't let him sit on the bed. Why didn't you do that? You think I'm too good for the bed or the bed is too good for me? And she told him, you are najis. And this is the bed of the Prophet ﷺ. You cannot sit in there. Subhanallah. Look, after all of these years, And he said to her, I think something wrong happened to you in my absence. So he told her what happened, and he decided to go meet the Prophet ﷺ. Meanwhile, the Prophet was sitting among his companions in the masjid. And the Prophet ﷺ said to his companions, he said to them, I feel like Abu Sufyan is about to enter, and he's about to ask us to extend the Hudaybiyah treaty. And then shortly after, of course, Abu Sufyan came in, and he says, Ya Muhammad, I came to you because the Hudaybiyah treaty has been so good to us. We want to extend it. And the Prophet ﷺ said, of course the Prophet knew what happened. And the Prophet asked him, why have you done anything? Abu Sufyan said, no, nothing had happened. We just thought it was so good, and we want to extend it. And the Prophet ﷺ said to him, well, we are bound by that treaty. We will never nullify the treaty, and we will never betray. We will never stab in the back. So Abu Sufyan, of course, he didn't get his answer. So he went to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq after some time. Of course, in the Arabia at that time, they had the habit of what is called al-jiwar. Al-jiwar, when somebody declares al-jiwar, it means somebody is giving protection to the people. So he went to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and he said, Ya Abu Bakr, you are the closest person to the Prophet. Why don't you declare al-jiwar among the people so that no fighting will happen? He didn't want any fighting to happen. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq told him that, no, I will never declare jiwar without the permission or the command of the Prophet ﷺ. This is something serious. So he didn't get what he wanted. So he went to Umar ibn Khattab. He had hope that Umar could help him. Subhanallah. And he said, Ya Umar, you are a great, honorable person. Why don't you declare jiwar among the people? And then Umar said, if I couldn't find anyone to fight you except the ants, I will side with them to fight you. I will never do that without the permission or the command of the Prophet ﷺ. The same answer. Subhanallah. Look, very good tarbiyah, so to speak. Good upbringing. So he goes back, the same answer. Then he goes to Ali ibn Abi Talib. You are the son-in-law of the Prophet, you are his cousin. Why don't you declare al-jiwar among the people? And Ali gave the exact same answer. I will never do it without the command or the permission of the Prophet ﷺ. Then he goes to Fatima, the same thing. Subhanallah, so desperate. And she said, no, the same thing. And he said, why don't you ask one of your sons, Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein, very young. And she said, they're too young to do that. Then Ali told him, I have a suggestion. Why don't you, since you are the leader of Mecca, why don't you go and declare al-jiwar yourself? People may listen to you. And Abu Sufyan asked him, you think that would help? Ali told him, no, I don't think it would help. But do it anyway. So here goes Abu Sufyan in the middle of the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. The Sahaba and the Prophet, everybody sitting there. And he stands in front of everybody. Oh people, listen. I am the leader of Quraysh and I declare jiwar. So nobody will fight with anybody else. The Prophet smiled and looked at him and he said, that's what you're saying. So Abu Sufyan again, he didn't get any answer. So he leaves back toward Mecca. The Prophet ﷺ, meanwhile, he gives the command to Aisha to start preparing for the war. It's a big thing. What happened was the major thing. So Abu Bakr as-Siddiq alayhi goes into the house of his daughter Aisha and he finds her preparing the provision and the gears for the Prophet ﷺ. And he asked her, did the Prophet ask you to do that? She said yes. And he asked her, who is he planning on attacking? She didn't say anything. Did he want to go to Hawazin? She didn't say anything. Did he want to go to At-Ta'if? She didn't say. Did he want to go to Mecca? She didn't say anything. SubhanAllah, good secret keeper. Sometimes these days when somebody asks me something, I let everything out. Here, her own father is asking her because the Prophet trusted her, told her not to say that to anybody. So the Prophet ﷺ comes in and he asks him, Ya Rasulullah, who are you planning on attacking? Hawazin? The Prophet said no. Who is it? Ta'if? The Prophet said no. And Abu Bakr said, Ya Rasulullah, are you seeking Quraysh? And the Prophet said yes. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq said, Ya Rasulullah, but there's a treaty. And the Prophet says, they broke the treaty, Ya Abu Bakr. لَقَدْ نَقَضُوا الْعَهْدِ. They broke the agreement, Ya Abu Bakr. And the Prophet ﷺ then gave him the command to prepare. And the Prophet ﷺ told the closest of his companions, and he kept it secret from everybody else. So he gave the general command for all the Muslims to start preparing for the war. But he did not tell anybody what he was seeking. Not only that, but the Prophet ﷺ asked Abu Qatada and then 8 people to go toward Najd to make sure that nobody basically take the news out. So the people thought, oh, he's going after Najd. He sent them there, that's where the Prophet is going. But the Prophet ﷺ again did not tell any of the Sahaba, and the Sahaba wanted to know, where are we going? So they sent Sa'd ibn Malik, the poet. They knew that the Prophet ﷺ loves poetry. So this Sa'd ibn Malik started reciting poetry, asking the Prophet in poetry, thinking that the Prophet would give in. The Prophet smiled ﷺ and didn't say anything. And the Prophet ﷺ gave the general command of the Muslims to start preparing, and by then 7,500 soldiers were ready. How many were there in the Hudaybiyah Treaty 2 years earlier? 1,400, just 1,400. SubhanAllah, look how many there are now. 7,500, and the numbers are growing. And the Prophet ﷺ gave the command that nobody was to leave Medina without the permission of the Prophet ﷺ. One of the Muslims, his name is Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a, he was one of the people of Badr. His family was still in Mecca. So he was concerned that something would happen to them, and he knew that the Prophet was going after Mecca, so he sent a note to warn the people of Mecca, thinking that with that, they will take care of his own family. It's an act of treason, subhanAllah, it shouldn't have happened. So he gave that note to a woman that put it in her braid, basically hid it in her braid, and then off taking a secret road toward Mecca. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Jibreel to tell the Prophet Muhammad of what happened. Then the Prophet ﷺ sent Ali ibn Abi Talib and Zubayr ibn al-Awwam after that woman. And he told them that you will find her on that road. Go catch her and bring her back with the message. So they go to that woman and they ask her, the Prophet ﷺ told us that you have a message. Give us this message. She said, no, I don't have any message. Then they said to her that Jibreel did not lie to the Prophet, and the Prophet did not lie to us. If you do not give us the message, we will search you ourselves. SubhanAllah. In other words, we will physically search you. And of course, to her, it's a big shame. She would do anything but never be touched and searched like that by 2 men. SubhanAllah, look at the honesty, despite the fact that she was basically doing this horrible act, but she would never do something like that. She would not allow something like that to do. So she told them, look away, so she can basically get her hair out. So that decency is still there, subhanAllah. So they looked away and she got it out and she gave it to the Prophet ﷺ. She gave it to them, and they took it back to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet called upon Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a. Ya Hatib, what is this? Subhanallah, can you imagine that situation in there? Hatib started crying. Ya Rasulullah, I'm not a munafiq, I'm not a kafir, I'm not a disbeliever, but this is the situation, my family is there, my family did this and did that. Then Umar alayhi radwanullah said, Ya Rasulullah, let me cut his head. He's a big kafir, big munafiq. And the Prophet ﷺ said to them, no, he said the truth. The Prophet is teaching us an important lesson. That despite the horrible act, but when he said that I'm a believer, the Prophet said he said the truth. But of course, that doesn't cancel the horrible act that he did. And the Prophet ﷺ said, leave him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looked at the people of Badr, because he was one of the people of Badr, and said to them, do whatever you want, to have forgiven everything to you in advance. Yes? Yes, jazakumullah khair. Allah yabarak feek. You cannot take a general hukm from that. You can take the lesson, one of the lessons that you get in that situation is that despite what he did, that does not nullify Iman. Which means Iman is not nullified by a big act of treason. It means that the person is bad. It doesn't mean that the person is good. What he did is horrible. And if it was somebody else who did that, he would have been punished severely. But this is something special for the people of Badr. Jazakumullah khair, like you said. So this is a special status for the people of Badr, who were the greatest of the Muslims. So here the Prophet said that لَعَلَّ اللَّهَ اطَّلَعَ عَلَى أَهْلِ بَدْرٍ وَقَالَ اعْمَلُوا مَا شِئْتُمْ فَإِنِّي قَدْ غَفَرْتُ لَكُمْ. Allah looked at the people of Badr and said, do whatever you want, I have forgiven to you in advance. But this remains a big act of treason, of course. Defying the commands of the Prophet ﷺ. Meanwhile, people started coming again to Medina to join the army of the Prophet ﷺ. Among those that came was the leader of Banu Tamim. He called upon his tribe and they came and joined the Prophet ﷺ, but did not participate in the fighting. Also, one of the people that came was the leader of Ghatafan, Uyayna ibn Husn. His name came up, earlier. Remember? What did we say about him? Who was Uyayna ibn Husn? His name came up several times in the Khaybar, and then before that, the one that is nicknamed Al-Ahmaq al-Muta', the one who is obeyed no matter what by his people. So here, Uyayna ibn Husn basically came to declare his Islam, mostly because others are doing that, and so he will do it as such, but he did not also participate in the army because he did not have their weapons on. Meanwhile, shortly after that, then the tribe of Banu Sulaym came to declare their Islam and to support the Prophet ﷺ with an army of 1,000 horsemen. 1,000 horsemen ready to fight, coming to support the Prophet ﷺ. When the Prophet saw them, he was so happy. Now who got jealous? Uyayna ibn Husn. Subhanallah, how could Prophet is happy with them, we didn't do that. So he started basically putting them down. He says, those 1,000, they can do anything. They're not good enough. If the Prophet needed the true warriors, I will send him true warriors. These are not good enough. And of course, a big argument started among the two, and the Prophet asked both to be quiet. Then the Prophet ﷺ took 200 of these and put them under the leadership of Khalid bin Walid and off basically to be ahead of the army to make sure that there are no spies and the road actually is safe for everything. So the Prophet ﷺ goes toward Najd. People said, Muhammad is going after Najd. And then the Prophet changed course toward the Ta'if. And everybody said, that's it. The Prophet ﷺ is going to the Ta'if. So nobody knew actually what was to happen. And then the Prophet ﷺ then moved toward Mecca. By then, the Prophet ﷺ had 10,000 warriors. Subhanallah, 10,000 warriors marching toward Mecca. As he was going toward Mecca, as he got close toward Mecca, then he divided the army into 5 groups, al-Khamis, 5 groups, which is normally the practice whenever a war was about to start. The frontmost part was the 1,000 soldiers of Banu Sulaym under the leadership of Khalid ibn al-Walid. And then another segment of the army under the leadership of Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, another segment by the leadership of Abu Ubaidah Amir ibn al-Jarrah, mostly of the Muhajirin, another group by the leadership of Sa'd ibn Ubadah, under the leadership which is mostly comprised of Al-Ansar, and then a select group among the Muhajirin and the Ansar under the leadership of the Prophet ﷺ himself, and this was known as the Green Battalion or the Green Legion. And this was the backbone of the army. All the strength of the army was in that battalion, under the leadership of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself. Then the Prophet ﷺ reached within 4 miles of Mecca. And Mecca still doesn't know what was happening. They didn't know what was going on. So what they decided to do is to send Abu Sufyan a second time to Mecca. And to tell him that anyway, and they told him that if you find that Muhammad, basically is weak, we will fight him. If Muhammad is strong, we will surrender to him. Of course, they didn't know what was happening and where Muhammad ﷺ was. By then, one of the people of Quraysh decided to go and migrate, and he was the last migrant, the last muhajir, for the sake of Allah at that time, as a Muslim, and this was Al-Abbas radiallahu anhu, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. So Al-Abbas alayhi radwanullah goes toward the camp of the Muslims. He didn't know what was happening, and by then it was night. And the Prophet ﷺ asked the soldiers to have a small fire by each tent. So you can imagine how that would look in the middle of the night, 10,000 soldiers with all these fires from a distance. So Al-Abbas goes in there, and it's something that he has never seen before. So he goes to meet the Prophet ﷺ, and he find out what the Prophet ﷺ he was planning. By then no secret is to be kept. Everything is declared open. And Abbas told the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, if this army enters Mecca, it will be the end, the destination of Mecca. And the Prophet ﷺ asked him, then go and see what you can do. So Abbas took the mule of the Prophet ﷺ, the very mule of the Prophet ﷺ, and then back toward Mecca to warn them by the permission of the Prophet ﷺ. Meanwhile, of course, who is coming? Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan comes and watches from a distance these huge fires, a huge mass of people. So he looks in there, and as he was standing, who comes next to him? The leader of Khuza'a, Budayl ibn Warqa. So he says, what is this? Abu Sufyan. And Budayl ibn Warqa knew what was happening. He says, oh, this is the tribe of Khuza'a, instigated by the war. Abu Sufyan says, Khuza'a is nothing compared to this. That could never be Khuza'a. So as he was standing in there, then who comes? Al-Abbas, alayhi radwanullah, Abu al-Fadl. So Abu Sufyan said to him, Ya Abu al-Fadl, what is this? And Abu al-Fadl or Al-Abbas, he said to him that this is the army of Muhammad. If you do not surrender Mecca to him, it will be the end of Mecca forever. And Abu Sufyan said, but how can I go in there? They will kill me, they will do something to me. And Abbas said, this is the mule of the Prophet. You'll be under my protection. We will go over it to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So they go to the camp of the Muslims. Who was in charge of guarding the camp at that time? Umar ibn al-Khattab alayhi radwanullah. Of course, who else? The luck of Abu Sufyan. So Umar stops the horse. Who's this? And Abbas said, this is Abu Sufyan. Umar said, Alhamdulillah. Allah brought you here without any protection. So he was about to kill him. Then Abbas said, Ya Umar, leave him. He's under my protection. He's under my protection. And then Umar told him, leave me alone. Ya Abbas, let me kill him. And then Umar alayhi radwanullah rushed to go to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam to get permission to kill Abu Sufyan. Meanwhile, Abbas and Abu Sufyan rushed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam to tell him, Ya Rasulullah, he's under my protection. And they raced basically until basically Abu Sufyan reached there right shortly before Umar ibn Khattab alayhi radwanullah. And Al-Abbas said to the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, this is Abu Sufyan coming to you to surrender. And he's under my protection. Then Umar says, Ya Rasulullah, this is the enemy of Islam. Let me kill him. Allah brought him here. And Al-Abbas says, no, be quiet, Ya Umar. He's under my protection. Then Umar said, no, stay away from it. Let me kill him, Ya Rasulullah. Then the Prophet then Al-Abbas said to Umar ibn Khattab, of course Al-Abbas was related to Abu Sufyan. So Al-Abbas said to Umar ibn Khattab that you're only doing this because he's not of your tribe. Then Umar calmed down. And he says, no, this is not the reason. Of course, Umar is far greater than Al-Abbas. This is not Umar. Umar would never do like that. And Umar told him, if it was my own father, I would do the same. So Umar is not the one who would kill out of tribalism. Of course, what Umar knows, Abbas doesn't know anything about. He's far greater than Al-Abbas. Then the Prophet ﷺ asked him to calm down. And the Prophet asked Al-Abbas, isn't it time for you to testify that there's no God but Allah? And Abu Sufyan said, if there was any God besides Allah, he would have been helpful to us. Look what's happening to us. Yes, you're right, there's no God but Allah. And he said to him, then isn't it time for you to testify that I am the messenger of Allah? Then the Prophet, then Abu Sufyan said, there's still some doubt about that in my heart. So the Prophet ﷺ accepted that from him. And he sat with him and he kept him that night. And then the Prophet ﷺ told him, then go back and tell your people to surrender. Because he knew, obviously, if he were to enter, basically, by force, it will be the end of Mecca. And Al-Abbas said, then what should I do, Ya Rasulullah? And the Prophet ﷺ said, anyone that enters his house will be saved. And Al-Abbas told the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, Abu Sufyan likes status, likes, to be recognized. Give him something that pleases him. And the Prophet said, anyone that enters your house, Abu Sufyan, will be saved. He was so happy. And then he thought, Ya Rasulullah, not many people can fit in my house. And the Prophet said, anyone who enters his own house will be saved. Anyone who enters the haram will be saved. Which means everybody will be saved, basically, except those that stand in the way of the army. So Abu Sufyan then went back on his way to warn his people. On his way, when he reached somewhere between two hills, then Al-Abbas stopped him. He says, stop. And then Abu Sufyan thought that they're going to betray him, stab in the back. He says, what? Are you going to kill me? And he says, no, stop in there. you will see something. And the Prophet ﷺ ordered a procession of the army, the whole army to pass in front of Abu Sufyan for him to see. And Banu Sulaym passed by. Why Banu Sulaym? And then Sa'd ibn Ubadah said before Abu Sufyan, and he says that al-yawm yawmul malhama, that today is the day that we butcher the enemies, basically. And the Prophet ﷺ heard of that and he got very upset and he removed him from the leadership of the army. And the Prophet said, Kadhab, that's not correct. Al-yawm yawmul marhama, today is the day of mercy. This is not the day of butchering. The Prophet is indicating that we're not just going after the people, that today is the day that Allah dignifies Mecca. That's where the dignity of Mecca lies. So then the army started passing in front of them until, of course, he saw the green battalion under the leadership of the Prophet ﷺ. That Abu Sufyan said, nobody could ever face this battalion. And then they told him, now go and then start warning your people. So Abu Sufyan goes to Mecca and he meets with the leaders. And among them his own wife, Hind bint Utbah. And he said to them that, look what's happening. There's no way, we cannot face them. We have to surrender. Then his wife said, kill him. This big fat coward, kill him. And Abu Sufyan said to them, wallah, she doesn't know what she's talking about. I saw the army. I know what they can do. They told him, well, then what can we do? Then he stood before everybody. Whoever enters the house of Abu Sufyan will be saved. They told him, may Allah curse you. How many people can you fit in the house of Abu Sufyan? But of course, he had to say it to indicate the status. And then he said, whoever enters the haram will be saved. Whoever enters his own house will be saved. And then the Prophet ﷺ then ordered the command, or gave the command for the people to start entering Mecca. With all humbleness, the group of Khalid ibn al-Walid and they agreed to meet somewhere by the Kaaba. And then the Prophet ﷺ was reciting basically Surah Al-Fath, reciting Surah Al-Fath with all humbleness, reaching by the Kaaba until some people, it's a group of people, actually Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl and some of the others tried to fight the Prophet ﷺ, but of course they could not afford any resistance. The Prophet, or specifically the battalion of Khalid ibn al-Walid, defeated them in no time. And then they kept on going until they met by the Kaaba, making the big takbir of Islam at that time. The big takbir of Islam, unlike that of the kuffar before that. And the Prophet ﷺ reciting Surah Al-Fath with all humbleness, going around the Kaaba, making tawaf, and declaring basically the dignity of Islam and the dignity of Quraysh itself that follows actually into Islam shortly after that. Some of the things that happened, one person named Abu Fudala. Abu Fudala wanted to kill the Prophet. So he had a dagger hidden in his cloak, and he started thinking to himself, that I'm going to go as soon as Muhammad comes close, I'm going to attack him. And Prophet knew about it. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya Fudala, what are you thinking about? And Fudala said, oh, I'm making tasbih. Ya Rasulullah, I'm making tasbih. And the Prophet ﷺ put his blessed hand on his chest and he says, Ya Fudala, astaghfirillah, that ask Allah to forgive you. And Fudala said, when he took his hand off my chest, there was no one who was more beloved to me than the Prophet ﷺ. And some other instances happened. Then the Prophet ﷺ ordered Bilal ibn Rabah to climb on the top of Kaaba and declare the adhan of Islam. And some of the people that were watching from a distance, one of them was Utad ibn Usayd, Al-Harith ibn Hisham, and Abu Sufyan. Utad ibn Usayd said to the other two, he says, Wallahi, Allah had mercy on my father that he died before he saw this black slave climbing on the back of the Kaaba. And the other person said the same thing. Abu Sufyan said to them, Wallahi, if I said anything, the stones will tell Muhammad, I'm going to be quiet. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came to them, the three of them. And he says, Ya Utad, didn't you say that Allah honored your father that he died before today? And he said the same thing to the other person. And he looked at Abu Sufyan and he says, Ya Abu Sufyan, if you had said anything, the stones would have told me. And Abu Sufyan said, Ashhadu annaka Rasulullah. I testify that you are the messenger of Allah. At that time, it established itself actually in the heart of Abu Sufyan. The Prophet ﷺ, of course, he had declared that some of the people were to be killed, but he ended up forgiving most of them. One of them was, of course, Hind bint Utbah. radiallahu anha. Of course, radiallahu anha. She became a companion. Abu Sufyan became a companion and he lost his two eyes, by the way, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of them in the battle of Hunayn and the other one in the battle of Al-Yarmouk. And Hind bint Utbah was one of those motivating the Muslims in the battle of Hunayn that happened shortly after. So here the Prophet ﷺ was taking the pledge from the women, Bay'atul Nisa. And he asked them, among them was Hind. And she was covered, all covered. And he said, I want you to pledge that you will not commit any adultery. And Hind bint Utbah said, Ya Rasulullah, awatazni al-hurra, would a free woman commit adultery? Meaning it is something unheard of. And of course, keep in mind, she still had the Jahiliyyah mentality, fresh out of Jahiliyyah. And according to the Jahiliyyah mentality, a free woman would never commit adultery. So what she was saying to him, you're asking for the obvious. Of course we will never commit adultery. SubhanAllah, compare that with the Jahiliyyah of today, where people brag sometimes, even Muslims, and they post pictures on Facebook. Look who I went out with. Look how many men I seduced. You know, the Prophet ﷺ, this is very serious. The Prophet ﷺ said, كُلُّ أُمَّةِ مُعَافَ إِلَّا الْمُجَاهِرُونَ. All of my ummah will recover except those that brag about the sins. And the problem sometimes, you know, this is wallahi on a tangent, but I think it is good to mention it in here. That sometimes we're bombarded by these values that get as much as you can. As much pleasures, as much as you can satisfy the desires. The more you can do that, the better. The more you can get, the better. There's no control. Take as much of it as you can. What about Al-Jannah? What about hellfire? What about the submission to the commands of Allah? Is that a consideration? I mean, that makes a big difference, right? I mean, if we were, like animals, take as much as you can. But there's a big goal. There's a big threat and there's a big reward. When the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Jannah has something no eye has ever seen, no ear has ever heard of, and no mind could ever imagine. Eternal. Would you sacrifice that for the sake of few minutes of pleasure? An eternal life of happiness for a few minutes of unlawful pleasure. Is it worth it? You know, we do that sometimes, subhanAllah. That's why here Hind bint Utbah said, أَوَتَزْنِ الْحُرَّةِ. A free woman, a dignified woman would never commit adultery. This is the first Jahiliyyah. But in the Jahiliyyah of today, the free woman actually is enslaved by her desires, and men as well. And they brag about doing that, as if it is something to be proud of, when actually it's a ticket to hellfire, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. So she said, Ya Rasulullah, أَوَتَزْنِ الْحُرَّةِ. And it says that when the Prophet said that her sister covered her head, out of shame, still freshly Muslim. The Prophet said, you don't commit adultery. So when the sister of Hind heard that, she covered her head. What is he talking about? We don't want to hear that. That's so shameful. SubhanAllah, again, this is the first Jahiliyyah. The first Jahiliyyah was not that bad. I mean, it was bad, of course, a Jahiliyyah by definition. But in comparison, sometimes the new Jahiliyyah commits something worse. SubhanAllah. And then the Prophet ﷺ heard her voice and recognized, of course, her voice. And the Prophet said, Hind. And she said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa annaka Rasulullah. SubhanAllah. And the Prophet accepted that. That's it. She declared her Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ said to everybody, that I want you also to pledge that you will not kill your children. And she says, Ya Rasulullah, we raised them as kids and you killed them when they grew up. Of course, because her own son was killed in the battle of Badr, referring to that. And the Prophet smiled, alayhi salatu wasalam. Umar, alayhi ridwanullah, he said, what a strange thing. Every time the Prophet said something, she had an answer for him. SubhanAllah, some people are like that, too aggressive. You know? But of course, she became a good person. And of course, an important thing in here is that the Prophet ﷺ accepted that from them. That's why after the Prophet entered Mecca, he gathered the people that were fighting him, that kicked him out, the people that tortured him, the people that persecuted them. And the Prophet said to them, مَا تَظَنُّونَ أَنِّي فَاعِلٌ بِكُمْ. What do you think I'm doing to you? What did they say to him? أَخٌ كَرِيمٌ وَابْنُ أَخٍ كَرِيمٌ. That you are a dignified brother, the son of a dignified brother. You are our brother. Of course, the Prophet had always been like that, but now they recognize it because he was strong, alayhi salatu wasalam. And of course, the Prophet could have taken punishment from them. And if he did that, if the Prophet did that, it would have been justified because of what they did. But the Prophet ﷺ was much more dignified than that. The Prophet ﷺ said to them, اذهبوا فأنتم الطلقاء. Go, you are free. Nothing will happen to you. No harm will happen to you. Despite the fact that here Hind bint Utbah was reminding him of what happened. Even though, it's supposed to be the other way around. But the Prophet ﷺ, whenever anybody tried to have a bridge with him, the Prophet would accept him. The Prophet would never dwell on the old animosities, even if he was justified to do that. But the Prophet ﷺ would always open the gate for anybody to reach out to him. Despite of what they did earlier, the Prophet forgave them ﷺ. And that's when the true character, by the way, shows. The true character of the person shows when that person is in position of strength. Not when the person is in a position of weakness. Here, of course, if the Prophet had no choice, then his credit will not show up. But here the Prophet had hand, but yet he still said, اذهبوا فأنتم الطلقاء. This is how great he was, alayhi salatu wasalam, and teaching us a lesson. If somebody comes back to you, apologizing, asking Allah for forgiveness, do not reject them. Do not say, I will never forget. That's it. Now here Hind bint Utbah chewed on the liver of Hamza alayhi radwanullah. What could be worse than that? And they were fighting the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. But the Prophet accepted that with a smile alayhi salatu wasalam. Not just accepting it, but accepting it and then actually accepting everything and forgiving them alayhi salatu wasalam. With that, Islam went back to Mecca. And with that, the migration has ended. That's why it says there's no migration, لا هجرة بعد الفتح. No migration after Mecca is conquered. Now all of Mecca became Muslim. What was to happen afterward? What battle was to happen afterward? The Prophet ﷺ, would he stay in Mecca or would he go back to Medina? What happened in the siege of the Ta'if? What happened in the battle of Hunayn? Inshallah, we'll discuss all of that in our next meeting next month. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. I think it could be both. The question is, let me repeat the first question. The first question, did the Prophet ﷺ accept Hind bint Utbah, or did he stop talking to her afterward? And the Prophet accepted Hind bint Utbah. Not only that, but she asked him a question shortly after, when the Prophet says, you will not basically steal or anything. And she said to him, to show that here, subhanAllah, once Islam establishes in the heart of a person, then that's it. He's a Muslim. Sometimes a person will be a Muslim, for example, for 10 years. And we still call him a new Muslim. No, she became a Muslim, that's it. Immediately, the commands of the Prophet, she asked him, Ya Rasulullah, Abu Sufyan is a stingy person. He doesn't give me enough money. Is it okay for me to take some money from him without knowing? And the Prophet said, yes. But you take just what is needed, the minimum that is needed. So it was not Hind bint Utbah, what that happened, what you're talking about, Wahshi. The person actually, Wahshi is the one who killed the Prophet, killed Hamza alayhi. And the Prophet ﷺ was sitting, and Wahshi came. He was running away from the Prophet ﷺ. They told him, people, that, why don't you declare your Islam? The Prophet accepts Islam from people. And he came, Ya Rasulullah, Ashhadu an la Muhammad Rasulullah. The Prophet said, Wahshi. And he said, yes. And the Prophet said, go and don't let me see you. Go and do not let me see you. And this was the only time where the Prophet ﷺ, we know of, held that kind of a feeling toward anybody. Because of what memories that will bring back to the Prophet. Wahshi is the one that killed and mutilated Hamza alayhi. So it was too hard on the Prophet. The Prophet was a human alayhi salatu wasalam. That's why Wahshi said, I kept on running away from the path of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And he said that I killed the best of people. Wahshi said, I killed the best of people, which is Hamza. And in making up for that, I'm hoping that Allah forgive me because I killed the worst of people. Or by killing the worst of people. Who was the worst of people that he killed? Who? Musaylim al-Kadhab, Musaylim al-Dawair, who pretended to be a prophet. He's the one that killed him. So he said, I'm hoping that with that Allah will forgive me that I killed Hamza alayhi sallam. The other question that you asked was, when they said that you are the son of a dignified person, who were they referred to? It could be both. It could be the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was among the most noble of Quraysh. Anybody knew that. So this was not something that anybody actually disputed. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows, from the top of Ismail alayhi salam all the way down. And they knew that from the beginning, but anyway, it was like a statement basically to please him. that you are honorable, you will not do anything like that to us. Something like that. That was the statement. So it could be his father, and that would be true. And it could be his grandfather, and that would also be true. Yes?
So your last statement about Hijrah being the last Hijrah after Makkah, after the conquest of Makkah, there is no more Hijrah. That goes for today too?
No, this is as far as the Hijrah with the Prophet. The Hijrah with the Prophet ended with the conquest of Mecca. Once Mecca became Muslim, that's it. There's no more Hijrah. There's no more Muhajirin, the way they were called. The last Muhajir was Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu.
But it still can happen.
Well, yes, I mean, of course, what's a Hijrah is a migration, going from one basically place to another.
No, I mean in the name of Allah.
It can be for the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but any migration is a legitimate migration. So a person, because some people say, hey, look at him, astaghfirullah, he's going there for a better job. There's nothing wrong with that. Who said that's really wrong? When you go basically to the Bay Area for a better job, it's the same thing, that's a hijrah. I mean, from here to the Bay Area is more than from Mecca to Medina. So that's what, there's nothing wrong with, that's mubah. There's nothing wrong with traveling to another place looking for better living conditions. There's nothing wrong with that. A travel does not only have to happen, for the sake of something religious. No, it doesn't have to happen only for that. Any other question? Number 3. I'm kidding. I thought. Right.
The man who was going to stab the Prophet, I don't remember his name.
The
man who was going to stab the
Yes.
Prophet. How did the Prophet know this was going to happen?
Allah in Revelation.
So he just
Yeah. No, nobody told him. The man was hiding something, and the man is talking to himself. Then Jibreel came, like Allah told him about what Abu Sufyan and the 2 other people were saying. Actually, the interesting thing is that another interest happened actually with Abu Sufyan. Shortly before that, he was watching actually as the army is coming, the army of the Muslims is coming in, and he started thinking to himself, now that the Muslims come in, I'm going to reorganize my forces and I'm going to attack the Muslims and what. And the Prophet came from behind him and he said to him, then Allah will disgrace you. So the Prophet responded to his self-conversation, so to speak. And that's when he said, that's when he said, Ashhadu annaka Rasulullah. And then he repeated that statement later on. خير إن شاء الله جزاكم الله خير سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر جزاكم الله خير والسلام عليكم